Welcome back, everyone, to the Truth and Freedom podcast, where awakening begins with asking the question most people are afraid to ask. I'm your host, Dr. Dan Amzallag, and this is not just another podcast. This is a journey into awareness, courage, and truth. So today, we're diving into something every human being will face at some point in their lives. The moment where everything familiar falls apart, and you're left staring at the pieces, wondering how to rebuild again. Whether it's divorce, the death of someone you love, losing a job, or the collapse of an identity you once lived by, starting over is one of the hardest, most transformative experiences we can go through. And yet, it's also one of the greatest opportunities for truth and freedom. Starting over doesn't begin with a fresh plan or to-do list. It begins with a moment of honest recognition. My life is no longer what it used to be. That realization alone can feel like an earthquake. There's grief, anger, confusion, and a strange emptiness, almost like wandering through a house that used to be full, only to find every room stripped bare. And the mind tends to panic in that silence. It wants certainty, identity, direction. But the truth is that the first step in rebuilding is letting yourself sit in the unknown without rushing to fill it. Freedom begins the moment you stop pretending you're okay and start acknowledging what hurts the most. For many people, starting over after divorce can feel like a personal failure. Society wraps marriage in expectation and labels. So when it ends, people internalize shame that doesn't belong to them. But divorce is not a failure. Often, it's the moment someone finally chooses truth over illusion, peace over chaos, self-respect over self-abandonment. Walking away from a relationship that was breaking your soul is not a failure. It is actually a courage. It is clarity, and it is survival. The rebuilding comes later, and it starts with rediscovering the version of you that got buried under years of compromising yourself for someone else. Loss as well, whether it's death of a loved one or the collapse of a life plan, shakes the nervous system to its core. Our brains map out the future with the people and routines we love. And when those disappear, the internal GPS shorts out. You wake up thinking the world looks the same, but it just doesn't. And the body knows it long before the mind admits it. Starting over means learning to live with the ache without letting it define you. It means allowing the grief to move through you instead of locking it away like a shameful secret. Honoring pain is part of rebuilding, because grief is not an obstacle. It is a bridge between what was and what will be. Major life transition, like moving to a new city, ending a career, becoming an empty nester, facing retirement, create a different kind of loss, the loss of identity. Who am I without the roles I've played before? Who am I when the titles disappear? Those questions can feel threatening at first, but they're actually the doorway to becoming someone more authentic. When you strip away the labels, what's left is the real you, your values, your voice, your truth. And from that place, rebuilding becomes far more intentional. You're not recreating the past here. You're creating something aligned with your present self. Now, one of the most important parts of starting over is giving yourself permission to rewrite the rules. If your last chapter was defined by burnout, overgiving, or staying silent to keep the peace, this chapter gets to be defined by boundaries, balance, and honesty. If your past relationships were rooted in trauma bonds or fear of abandonment, this chapter gets to be rooted in self-respect and emotional safety. If your old life was built on survival, this new one can be built on choice. Starting over isn't just building again, it's building better with awareness you didn't have before. And here's the thing. You don't have to reinvent your entire life overnight. Starting over begins with small acts of reclaiming yourself, waking up and deciding to take care of your mental health, decluttering the things that hold old energy, creating new routines that reflect who you're becoming, not who you were, saying no to people or habits that shrink your spirit, saying yes to opportunities that feel expensive, even if they scare you. Healing doesn't happen through giant leaps. It happens through steady, intentional step that leads you back to your center. There will be days when you feel strong and hopeful, and days when you feel like you've made no progress at all. And this is completely normal. Starting over is not linear, it is spiral. You revisit old emotion with new awareness, and each time you rise a little higher. The key is not perfection, it's persistence, consistency. You keep showing up for yourself even when the path isn't clear. You keep believing there's something worth rebuilding even when you can't yet see it. So what most people don't realize is that the moment you think your life has fallen apart is often the moment your life is finally falling into place. Because endings clear the space for beginning. Breakdown precedes breakthrough. And nothing transforms you more than being forced to rebuild from the ground up. You learn who you are. You learn what matters. You learn what you refuse to tolerate ever again. And finally, you learn how powerful you truly are. So if you're starting over right now in this season, remember this. You're not starting from zero. You're starting from experience. You're starting from wisdom. You're starting from strength you didn't know you had. And the life you rebuild from this point forward will have deeper roots, clearer boundaries, and a stronger foundation than anything you built before. This is your chapter of truth. This is your chapter of freedom. And starting over is not the end. It's the beginning of the version of you that was always meant to rise. I'd like to thank you all for joining me on this special episode of Starting Over after dealing with losing a loved one or through divorce. Now, on the next and last episode of this season, we'll finish this with a big bang by covering the topic of becoming unstoppable and how radical self-trust leads to freedom, purpose, and power. As we're getting ready for season 4, it is important to remember everything you have learned on this season and how to apply everything that was recommended for you to do and never let go of your goals, dreams, and aspirations. It is important to stop blaming everybody else for your shortcomings and start taking accountability for everything you contributed in your own personal life. Being responsible for every action you take is what will make you unstoppable. Until then, my friends, stay awake, stay grounded, and stay free.